afternoon and welcome everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV, and a fine Balls McWednesday to all of you. If you're wondering, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, man, he's not in the studio. He's recorded the show. Yes, just before the start of today's show, Tom and I sat down and knocked this out. It's my 20-year anniversary, and, man, I got a day planned. Also, nothing's going to break that's bigger than Charlie Woods committed to Florida State, right? I mean, we can talk on that right off the bat. It's better to talk about that to start than to have to talk about a kick in the boys in last night's basketball game, largely controlled by Florida State, only to see a freezing cold wave of bricklaying cost the Noles an upset bid. I'll get to it in a moment. That's why I want to start instead with a couple of things. First, thank you for listening on 93.3 FM, Real Talk Radio, and watching on Warchant TV. As always, you're supporting the only locally owned and operated radio station in all of Tallahassee. That's important to support local. Thanks for doing it. Same goes for Warchant and Warchant TV. So there's that. Have you shaken off? I know you were in charge, Tom, with online there with all the basketball-related items. Have you shaken it off yet?
It was just the editing desk. Corey had the game story, but no, I haven't. That was really frustrating because for Virginia to even be in the position to steal the game late, they had to hit 5 threes in the first 30 minutes of the game with under 7 seconds to go on the shot clock. They had to have any number of things kind of just bounce their way for second chance opportunities or for us to miss shots in rhythm before we went really, really cold. It's just it's a frustrating thing. And also they had to have a kid go incredibly hot at the end that we couldn't stop, be it three-pointers or key rebounds, you name it. It happened, and they all had to stack together to barely beat us. The other thing that you got going for you last night was we were the tougher team. We were more physical. Yeah. They came here entitled as hell, looking for calls, looking to be bailed out, looking for gifts. And every time that there was a call that went against them, either for us or there was no whistle, their hands were to the sky and they were looking to the rafters and they were complaining and bitching and moaning.
Oh, it was a bitch fest, yes.
And we were more physical. We went to the rim. We played very good defense. We rotated. We crashed the glass as best we could, giving up all the size that we give up. It's just all of it was there for us to win by 6 points, 8 points, 10 points, and you end up losing the game outright. The thing I take from it that makes me feel positive is the shots that they generated, and they missed, are good shots. I thought they executed in the half court pretty well there for most of the game. It's just when you don't have the talent to finish. It sucks. It's a sobering reminder that you don't spend a lot of money on your roster and that the cavalry is coming next year, not this year. I really wanted that for the boys last night, though, because they did all the right things except, making baskets.
Yeah, man, you can't go 6 for 33 from beyond the arc and expect to win a basketball game, and you can't miss your last 11 shots. You can't go nearly 7 minutes towards the end of the game and not score and expect to hold a lead, and it's just frustrating. And then Jakari White goes crazy, and, what's frustrating about that is he hasn't done anything for Virginia. Once he got hurt, he came off the wrist injury, and he's come back now, and all of a sudden he looks like the guy that they thought they were getting when he transferred in. It's so frustrating.
I mean, he was super springy, too. You could see why he was sought after.
Yeah.
He's incredibly springy for a short guy. He missed one shot down the stretch, but they got the offensive board and kicked it back out to him, and then he made the three from the elbow. It's just it was all of those things had to stack together. Think about it. You don't score from the field in the final 7 minutes, and you lose by 3. I mean, that's how it was just there for the taking. And I don't know, man. That one's a tougher one to swallow than Wake Forest in a lot of ways because you feel this momentum is building, and Luke is calling his shot by having the kids come and drink the free beer, and you get everything you're looking for. And if you cash in, who knows? Maybe you're on the third wave of the bubble by the end of the year, but nothing is impossible if you win that game last night from a confidence standpoint of just mowing down more ACC wins. I think they're still going to battle for the rest of the season. I'm not saying that pack it up. It's just that they were building to a crescendo, and they failed themselves last night. And that sucks, man. I just heard
they took a 57-50 lead with just over 6.5 minutes to play and couldn't make another basket.
That's Lejay's, and that was a big shot by Lejay. I mean,
great game.
That was a 3-pointer in rhythm. Some of the shots weren't great down the stretch, but a lot of them were in rhythm, and you're thinking good offense. Well done. That's a good job getting to this spot, getting to this place, and just nothing would freaking fall.
If you tell me going into the game against Virginia that your top scorer in Wiggins is going to score a grand total of 2 points and not make a single 3-point shot and really be completely ineffective, and that you're going to have the lead with a couple minutes to go in the game, I would be stunned. I suppose I would take that scenario and say, well, he's bound to make one or something. It's tough. It is about, and you heard it in Link's post game.
Luke.
You got to make shots. Ultimately, that's the quote, I believe. Ultimately, you've got to make some shots. It was such a great, simple assessment. Like, you can do any number of things and look at rebounds and free throw shooting and all these different things. But man, last night came down to the fact that they don't shoot very well. They just don't shoot very well. They don't have talented enough players spread out amongst the roster that allow them to make enough shots to beat good teams, to beat good teams. You can beat some bad teams hanging in there by being gritty, by being tough, by playing hard, by hustling, by fighting. And they have won games like that as of late against bad to lower tier teams in this league. Good. You should have that. That ought to be what you see every night. You didn't see it against NC State. You've seen it in every game since. Okay, good. That lesson learned, we got to play hard. Remember, harken back to when they were losing and when they were losing ugly and when those post-game press conferences made you a little nervous about Luke's temperament and ability to read his team, because he would really rip them publicly. And we'd say, man, be careful. It's a long season. You can lose your team.
We just got to Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah.
We got a lot more holidays before this year's out.
Yeah. So we were at that time going, brother, come on, man. Sometimes you got to put the arm around them. You can't always be kicking that ass. You got to sometimes tell them you love them. And we worried. We thought it was teetering in terms of this going from being a bad team who plays really hard and loses games to a bad team who quits and gets their doors blown off. And that puts into jeopardy the so-called cavalry that is coming, whether or not they decide to remain firm on those commitments. That's where we were. Like a month ago, that's where we were. And now I never worry about whether or not they're going to play hard. I never worry about any of that. I know they're going to play hard. I know they're going to give all the effort that they have. It's just a sobering reminder they're simply not good enough. And they were good enough last night for the vast majority of the game to win the game. They were certainly tougher than Virginia. And I tell you what, man, basketball players, just stop it. It's at every level. It's become international soccer. It's a bitch fest. Shut up, man. Play the game. And I'm not talking about the stuff off the court, political or anything like that. I'm like, stop always turning to officials and begging for fouls. Stop doing that. If I were an official and you did that, and you did it incessantly, and you were showing me up like they do in baseball, by the way. I like that happens, not to a certain extent. We've had rogue umpires. But you're not going to just talk to me any old way, act any old way, and expect to get favorable calls. Like, if you're going to do that, you're going to whine after every play. If you take an ill-advised shot or you're wild as you come in the lane and you force a ball and I'm not going to bail you out with a foul call, and then you're going to stare me down and put your hands to the sky, you ain't getting a call the rest of the night. The next time I see a guy come across your arms, didn't see it, missed it. Sorry about that, Larry. Oopsie. Stop being a bitch. I mean, that's kind of how that has to work. So, yeah, Virginia is kind of detestable in that way, which makes it harder to accept that you lost the game after having outplayed them for the vast majority. Neither team shot the ball worth a damn, but you were tougher, and therefore you thought maybe we're going to get the win, and we don't.
Yeah, and you played from ahead basically the whole
game.
Yeah. And from a significant margin the whole game. And you hit a couple of shots when you had to. The second half was an abomination offensively. The second half was junkyard dog days kind of offense
No, it's tough. It's a tough watch
for both sides. Like when Swinton made a bucket, I think it was a layup. Everybody, the crowd went nuts because oh, there's not a lid on it. I think the game was in the mid-40s at that point. it's it's a tough pill to swallow because you got a lot of things go your way. And to your point, if you want to juxtapose early season to this part of the year, remember against Texas A&M down in Tampa when they absolutely torched us. Well, we also were a team that never went to the basket and never drawed fouls. And last night, I mean, we were at the line all night. It's what helped us build that lead. The disparity in free throws between the two teams was massive. And I don't necessarily think it was because of a bad whistle. I think we were just much more aggressive attacking the 10. But you got to make your shots. You got to make your front end of your free throws. You got to do all these things. What you saw down the stretch last night was they put 33. I mean, he's already part of the rotation, but near the basket, McCray couldn't get to the basket on demand. There was an answer for that. So somebody had to open it up and make a shot and allow for us to have variety on offense. We didn't. And so we were stagnant because there was no dribble drive. So somebody has to make a perimeter shot. And I thought they did mostly a good job getting and generating those shots. It's just, buddy, that one's going to hurt for a little while. Luckily,
it's not a costly loss in the sense that you were teetering on the edge of making the postseason tournament, meaning the NCAA tournament. You're not that at all. Link Jarrett joins us next on the Jeff Cameron Show. Let's talk some Florida State baseball, shall we? Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. It's that time of year again. It's hard to believe. In some ways, it feels like it takes forever to get here because I love baseball and can't wait for it to start. In other ways, you think, man, I was just thinking back to the end of last year and, you know, who we have coming back and who we're bringing in. Well, let's get all of you caught up because I think a lot of times, out of sight, out of mind, we're bringing it back around. Football is in the rear view. It's time to focus on Florida State baseball. And joining me to talk about is the coach himself, the head coach himself. Link Jarrett joins me every year at the start of the season. Coach, good to see you again always. I got so much to catch up on with you. I was at the scrimmage Saturday. You and I were just talking off air. There's a lot of possibilities. I know for you, Coach, that you would, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, ideally you'd like your 9 guys in the field to be specialized, for lack of a better term. They're placed in the field that they're excellent at. You understand it. But you have bats that you want to get into the lineup for guys that might not fit that descriptor. Talk about sort of the juggling that you're doing now and how comfortable you are with your options and your starters. Right off the bat, obviously you got to replace that up the middle defense that last year was almost the equivalent to Major League Baseball.
No, they were fantastic. Lodis and Faroe, as good as I've ever seen in the middle infield. And really, those guys can go beyond college and step in and play at that level right now. Could be in the big leagues. I mean, Lodis is in big league camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see Faroe do the same thing. I do like the athleticism and the options we have in the middle infield. Fisher, we saw Fisher at third last year, and clearly the two in the middle made it hard to crack that. He played a really good third base. He could play a good shortstop. He could play second if we needed to use him at third. Obviously, we could do that. Gabe Frazier, another very dynamic, talented infielder, could play short, second, third. The mobility of the players and the athleticism separates what you can do with that lineup because you have options. If you're pinned in with players that are truly built only to be at third or first or a corner outfield position, it does get difficult to have the options and the athleticism, which then leads you into playing above average defense that you need. And we do have those options. Carter McCulley has done a good job. I think right now more suited maybe to play third base, but we've seen him at short and second, and he can do that. Jace Estes has had a really good preseason. And again, he could bounce around. You start to look at matchups, left-handed pitcher against you versus right-handed pitcher. Does that present opportunities to make some adjustments in how you play people? If we're just talking the infield, clearly in the infield. Then Miles, the maturity and growth, the experience he had. I mean, we're talking about a guy that's played a freshman season, right? And how he evolved through the course of those games and the difficulty of how he was pitched, especially in the back end of the year when some data is out and the reports are out. People are much more prepared the second half of your freshman season. And I thought the growth that I saw out of him, the damage capability that he has to all fields, there aren't many players that have that kind of power. And then you look at the addition of playing a really clean athletic first base. That tidies up everything in the infield. So I like the options we have: third, short, second, big shoes to fill in the middle, like we discussed. Miles solidifies things at first base. Then you pivot to the outfield. I really like the explosiveness I see out of our outfielders. Chase Williams, there's few, if any, in college baseball that have that kind of twitchiness to them, the explosiveness out of the box, out of the gates, loves to steal. It's one thing to have the speed and the dynamic get up and go, but you do have to have a savviness and a sense of how to steal bases, and you have to want to do it and how to slide. So we need to keep him healthy and on the field. He clearly could play center, left, right, anywhere. Just like a really good shortstop should be able to move anywhere in the infield. Really good outfielder, you start in center field and you go from there. And Braden Dowd in that same mold, very polished experience from Southern California, USC, left-handed hitter, brings a nice touch to the lineup. Out of the Gage Harrelson mold, I think somebody that's ready to step in and fill one of those spots. Brody DeLamalure, we've seen his ability to run the ball out of the park. More of a corner outfielder than maybe the other two. John Stutzer, step for step with Chase Williams. And we had some people evaluate the speed and the running and the timing and those sort of metrics this fall, and those two were step for step. And I haven't had many players in that bucket of speed. So you have plenty of options in the outfield. You really do. And I think we're becoming more healthy behind the plate, which was scary. You probably heard me talk about in the fall and early preseason. We're banged up. We got to keep Carnes healthy, and Shmela's got to be healthy. And Caden Fromell from DMAC Community College, junior college player, he's caught every scrimmage we've had. He's been back there grinding. So I think we're equipped positionally, and you alluded to the athleticism and the options. Those buttons are enjoyable and fun to push, easier to maneuver the position players than maybe the pitching that's been built up or guys that you've built for more leverage relief roles. Those are in a different species category of how you have to manage the pitching than maybe the mobility and the options you do have on the field with the position guys.
Circle back on some of the guys you mentioned, because I'm interested in their growth and what you've seen and some aspects of their game that have to get better for Florida State to get to where we want to get to. I'm interested. You mentioned Carnes. I'll start with him. Wink, I think most people see that the bat is the bat, right? He can hit. There's power there. There's all of that. But is it safe to say that in terms of his future here and heck, if he goes on to the major leagues, is really solely going to be dictated by how much better he can get defensively?
Yeah, the cleanliness of the receiving. And I look at catching in this order. Catching, like you have to catch. And when you look at the stuff that we're running up there, you saw some of it Saturday.
Yeah.
Wide variety of stuff. And the command may not quite be what it is. Like when you look at some of the major league pitchers that have similar stuff. So catching some difficult pitches, at times pitches that may not be in the lane you expect, blocking things when you may not expect to block it, not blocking pitches that you may have called in an area that you would think needs to be blocked. That's catching. Then the receiving is stealing tough pitches. The game changes instantly in certain situations if you can steal strikes. Or it goes the other way for you if there's pitches that should be strikes that you're not receiving properly, and those pitches become balls. Like second and third, 1 out, and you go from a 1-1 count to a 1-2 count, or a 1-2 count to finish somebody off and record a strikeout on a borderline pitch. Those are such pivotal moments in the game, and those things add up. And getting off the field, in part, is a recipe for real success, and the strikeout's a huge part, and you go right to the receiving, the setup, the maintenance, the blocking tough pitches, and keeping the base runners in check and where they are, huge parts of it. Then you go to the throwing. We have to be consistent. We have to do better. Jeff, last year, the run game got away from us a little bit. Jamie wasn't great at controlling it on the mound, and Bellini wasn't great controlling it on the mound. And then the catchers were asked to do a lot, and we didn't handle that aspect of the game as well as we need to. And it hurt us at times. But the catching, the receiving, blocking, throwing, then you look at the hitting part. and Carnes is as advanced as you'll see in that aspect. Again, he and Miles are draft eligible. They'll be draft eligible sophomores. So fun to watch, but you're fast forwarding the development in hopes that these guys are high draft picks, just like Cam Smith. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you dream of what would it have been like for Cam to actually come back and play a third year. He's playing for the Houston Astros, and theoretically you would think that athlete is still in college for one more year, but Carnes is a year older, and Shmela has a lot of experience, and again, had been banged up, but very, very strong and aggressive. And Fromelt has been sound behind the plate. So I like the options that we have back there. Carnes' development, the cleanliness, the receiving, especially in certain lanes. Brad worked so hard with him on cleaning up some of the certain areas that he may not receive as well in other areas. And when you look at the data over time, that data can also show the athlete where they might be very strong in some of the areas they might need to continue to polish in terms of just the pure stealing of pitches.
Are you comfortable? You mentioned Miles, and if it's possible, I told somebody when I left the scrimmage, I don't know if it's that he's lost the baby fat or what, but he looks like a starting defensive end. He was already huge. He's poised to have such a huge season, but it's not like it's lost on everybody else that a guy's a giant who has power to all fields. Are you comfortable with the options you have behind him so he sees pitches?
Well, Jeff, that's tricky. And we're going to have people elevate their game. There's no way around it. When you lose what we have lost with the draft, you're going to have to plug this thing in. And you and I, probably if we rewound the videotape and listened to last year, we were in the same boat last year. When you look at the hitters in the middle of that lineup, think about what was pulled out. And then the recruitment and the development. You can even go to evaluation of the athletes, the recruitment of the athletes. How do you get them here? How do you develop the ones that are in the program and who you decide to bring in and who you can acquire? You have the combination of those factors allows there to be enough around him that it is protective. And then you look at the entirety of the lineup. You want it to be tough top to bottom, man, quite frankly. You don't want to just look at the 4 in the middle or the 5 at the top. If you're going to compete for what we expect to compete for, this needs to be a group of 12 to 13 hitters that are all capable of production in their own right. And then it shouldn't really matter who technically is protecting him. You just want that lineup to be deep enough. And if they choose to pitch around at times, and the other guys need to be capable, just like we saw from 24 to 25, there were massive shoes to fill in that transition. We're going to see the same thing, but some of these guys know that they're expected to deliver and produce and do that with consistency against left and right-handed pitching, fastballs, off-speed pitches, taking difficult pitches. All of that creates a recipe for success when you look at the totality of the offense. But very valid things we talk about, like where does Miles hit in this lineup? What does it look like around him? And then how consistent can we be around him to create length all the way top to bottom in this thing?
Yeah, we were having a fun conversation about that on Saturday. We were talking about, like, well, where would you hit Miles and how do you protect him? And, if you have a guy like Chase leading off, let's say, you get into the theory about, well, does he steal second? Well, now you've opened first. And, where you – so we end up having these conversations. It's kind of a fun conversation to have because it means you've got weapons. I'm curious. You talked about, getting guys in. Paulino Stutz, you just mentioned, is a freak athlete. He's finally able to focus on baseball full-time instead of football, as well as all the other sports he played. Sheffield is a name people will ask me about. Like, these guys that are, I don't know if I would call them additive, but how do you figure out how to use and get their bats? And Paulino's a guy who looks like he has effortless power to me. I mean, where are you at is a better question. Where are you at with their contributions, and how much do we think we see those guys early in the season?
You're going to see them all, Jeff. You're going to see them all. And
okay.
You start to, as you get closer to unpack, it's hard. This is hard. Scouting report stuff is really hard right now. You look at JMU, and honestly, man, I'm more concerned with the Seminoles than I am JMU today.
Right.
But it's coming. But you just look at the transition in rosters in this era we're in. They have a lot of new players. So when you get to unpacking who they're starting and what the pitching looks like, then you can solidify yourself on who might need to be where. And You know me well enough. I don't really talk about the DH slot because I take it personally in the development of the players to play functional positions. But we're going to have a DH at some point. Our pitcher ain't hitting. So when we get to the decision-making on who is not on the field, what is the most logical matchup? Who's had the most consistent at-bats for us? Who do we trust on the bases? Who brings a lot of different talent sets to the equation in the lineup? Then that's where we land on the DH. Sheffield has been very consistent. And we move Sheffield, some outfield, infield, we move them around. And I don't know what this thing is going to look like once we played 3 games, 1 game, 12 games. Things change. So again, the options and the versatility we have on the field opens up opportunities to structure the lineup based on how you need to do it. Polino, very gifted, extremely advanced hitting sense and bat-to-ball skill to all fields. Very, very advanced. One of the more advanced freshmen, just pure bat-to-ball use of the field, one of the best I've seen. Now, where do we plug him in? And then you look at my responsibility to try to develop them positionally. Some of these guys, we haven't been able to move the needle quite as much or enough to think that they're built to play position A or they're meant to play position A and B. Some of this is really a developmental piece for me to continue to try to work through to find out where Noah Sheffield belongs here and where he belongs as a pro and where Polino belongs here and what does this look like for him as a pro down the road. And Stutzer, right? There's Will Bavaro. I mean, he had a great preseason. Another freshman infielder, Eli Putnam, is a grad transfer that has put up, I think he had 40 extra base hits last year. So I always look at the field first, and then I kind of look at just the individual offensive things that they bring to the table because I want to support the pitching on the field with defense, with range, with athleticism the best I can. Then we will land on a DH at some point to start game 1. And then the game will talk to us. It will tell you things as you listen and watch. And even though we played a couple fall games, Jeff, it's different when you really get into this thing and here comes that bus and here comes JMU and we're at JU. Then all of a sudden you're in Dallas and you're playing in the Texas Rangers Stadium. There's a lot of information coming to me as we play the first couple weeks of this.
I know you got to get going, and in time's limited. We could talk for an hour. I don't want to make you do that, and I am going to get to talk to Coach Posey here in just a moment. So I'll ask him a lot of the stuff on the pitching that I haven't asked you. But you mentioned last one on this that, you lose Vellini, you lose Arnold. I mean, that's a lot of innings to replace. Are you excited? And quality innings at that. Obviously, Wes Mendez comes back. Everybody's familiar with him. I guess big picture, with weekend rotation, whatever you're comfortable with, how good do you feel about Beard and Moore and their additions?
Yeah, I feel really good with their additions, Jeff. And they're unique. And I know Mendez and Beard are both left-handed, but it's a different set of stuff. It's different release heights. And I know we got into 3 lefties last year on the weekend. It was what it was, and it just seemed to work for us. And we really had all 3 of them all year, which is unique. Peyton Manka has done a nice job. And the Tuesdays – that's a difficult schedule just by itself on Tuesday. Yeah. And then you look at where we're playing on the weekends and who we're playing and where we're playing. If we can get Peyton Manka, he'll extend today. He'll get to 65 pitches today. If this continues for us and we can use him on Tuesday, it's trending toward Mendez, it's trending toward Beard, it's trending towards Moore, and then it's trending towards Manka on Tuesdays. Then what you're doing with your leverage relievers, if you can consolidate their outings a little bit, they tend to be more dynamic. And if the starters can extend, then you're not having to frequent the leverage moments quite as often. And when Crest went down last year and Leiter was never able to get back, it created a little issue for us on the Tuesdays with just the number of guys it seemed like it took for us to get through some of those games. So we're close, man, and we need to see how the bullpen sessions today go and what this looks like for Manka today in the actual scrimmage and bullpen sessions tomorrow. Then we'll nail down that rotation. But I do like the options behind these guys, Jeff. Johnny Abraham, experience, Cato Leary.
Yep.
has been consistent since he's been here. Cole Stokes, I think you got to look at that the other day. He's going to throw the ball 9,900 miles an hour. Just have to keep that thing on the tracks a little bit, pitch count wise. Brody Purcell's been good, and we need Cooper Whitehead on the left side to help us back up some of those lefties. So I feel good about it. Knock on wood, the health factor. We know how fragile this world of pitching is, as everybody, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Marlins, the Mets, and the quest for velocity and the way these guys throw the baseball creates some concerns. And that's just the nature of where we are in baseball right now. But I do like the depth of the pitching. I like the age, the maturity of the pitching, and we do have some guys that clearly have been through the fights.
Yeah, you got a ton of innings under your belt there with the guys that came in and then the people that were already coming back that you've referenced. Coach, I always appreciate it. I can't wait for Friday and the season to get underway. I know you got a lot of work still to do and you're anxious to get to it, but thanks for taking the time to join us as always, and I'll see you over there.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it, man.
Take care. Link Jarrett, the head man, Florida State baseball, joins us at the start of every year. We always appreciate it, giving of his time, thorough, certainly, and insightful. We get a chance to talk to Mike Opposy as well, pitching coach. Will join us on the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hope you enjoyed Link Jarrett, who joins us at the start of every season. I'm rather joyous that is the case. Baseball right around the corner. And an intriguing team with lots of questions, but a lot of talent to help answer those questions. Stood out most to you, Tom, about what Link had to say regarding the lineup, pitching, season outlook, his view of, I guess you would say, the question marks and the strengths.
Yeah, on the hoof, I think he feels more confident about the athletic profile of his roster to play defense more than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Or he might be projecting confidence. I don't know which is the truth, but Link is a pretty straight shooter. If there's a deficiency, he's not afraid to call it out and say, well, we're going to have to work around that. I think he thinks that there are enough athletes on this team that he's got to grow them into the positions they're going to play, but he thinks that they can do that, which gives me a little bit more confidence because, again, I think defensively that's going to be my number one thing to watch this year. I think otherwise they're going to be pretty solid, and they're trending in a good spot for all the things that they might not be fully formed at yet. But slotting guys to play across the infield, play across the outfield, catcher, it sounds like he feels pretty confident, maybe outside of catcher. I think every other position he thinks he might have an answer for.
Yeah, the catcher spot is just a matter of the defense can get better. You just got to get better all the way around. Carnes is not a good defensive catcher at this stage of his career. He's merely adequate. The reason he's a plus player in totality is because he can hit. And I think, by the way, I think he can really hit. Like I'm going to be very curious to see what his power numbers are as the guy, now that he's the guy, right? I think the biggest question mark, and it sounds interesting to me the way he framed it, as opposed to what you just said, the way that we look at it. Cal Fisher. If Cal Fisher is going to be your shortstop, I don't think that's what they intended. I don't think that's what they wanted to do. But the way Link talks about it, you'd think that he's satisfied with what he's seen from Cal in camp in these scrimmages. Now, I saw him on Saturday, and he had an opportunity to make a lot of plays. And he made one plus play to his backhand. It was a tough ball to get to. It was a nice play, strong-armed it, made the play. It was not a typical play. So I saw that. I also saw him blow a routine play. Everything else was pretty much to him, and he made those plays. He's not going to have a ton of range. I think if you wanted to project what would be ideal, it's that he makes all of the routine plays and the occasional, okay, nice play, little more difficult than we're accustomed to seeing. You're not going to get the Lodi's wows. You're not going to get that. He can't get to the balls that allow you to get the Lodi's wows. The Lodi's wows, as with any shortstop, are the ones that see a guy range beyond reason, and then turn and make the throw after getting to a ball you didn't think they could get to. Well, That's not what's going to happen here. He's not going to get the balls you don't think he can get to because he can't get to them. So that's just going to be the way that is. But that's all right because a lot of really good baseball teams don't have an all-world gold glove shortstop. They just got a guy that he's going to make the routine plays. He's going to make the plays he's supposed to make. And that's what Kyle Fisher's got to do. Just make the plays you're supposed to make. Don't become an albatross. Don't become the thing where we go into games going, I hope he doesn't have one of those days. There have been guys that we've had at any position. It's really namely in the infield. But, there have been guys we've had at third before where you're like, man, I'm not worried about him making the great play. I just need him to make the routine play, and I'm not sure he's going to do that when we need it. We've had guys do that at second and short. We've had guys do that at first. It happens. But if you can just make the plays you're supposed to make, your offense should be good enough. Your pitching should be good enough. So we'll see. Can that infield make the plays they're supposed to make? They don't have to be exemplary. Last year they were. Last year, I just think we take it for granted. That's what I think the fan base will notice most early in the season is that last year you went to the ballpark and saw great plays all the time. All the time, at least once a game, you saw a defensive play where you went, oh, man, I used to see that in college. But you're not going to get that this year. And so it'll feel way worse than it is because what you grew accustomed to is not normal. So when you see normal, you're like, okay, well, God, we're not real good. It may not be that we're not real, that we're not bad. It's just that we don't do anything special. Yeah,
there's a major league stat among many in defensive metrics, which actually it's a great discussion for another day. Major leagues doesn't know how to quantify defense at the upper level because they have different metrics that disagree with each other. Runs saved, outs above average. But I think what we're looking for in the infield, if you're going to take one of those stats, is just to be neutral and outs above average.
Yeah.
Let's not be in the negative category. Let's not be below average and give a team, in a weekend series, an extra out or two. If you could do that, then you're going to be helping your pitching staff move along. Last year's group elevated the pitching staff. You feel more confident on the mound because if they put it in play, we're going to make the play. This year, it might be a little bit more neutral. I do wonder if maybe we're looking at an evolution in the infield as the season goes along. I just wonder if Cal's going to stick there at short. I'm going to guess, and I'll just be bold, 2 days before first pitch.
Sure.
I don't think he's going to be your shortstop the entire year. I think he'll move to a different position, and I think somebody else might emerge to be your everyday shortstop. We'll see. It might be that he needs to be at short in order for every bat they want to get into the lineup. He gets into the lineup with great consistency. But there was something that Link said just about his young players, outfielders and infielders alike, how he's got to find the right position for them at Florida State. And then there's an eye towards maybe what they're going to play at the next level. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There's that shepherding process that you could see the wheels turning in his head as he was talking to you about that towards the end of the interview. I feel like that means once we get into maybe April, late April, early May, there might be somebody that comes up the ranks and you go, yep, okay, now we are optimized defensively at where we want to be. And I'll also allow for, just because we didn't see it last year because we were so good, doesn't mean that you might not have to get used to defensive replacements, even in the infield, coming into the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th innings because they want to get better defensively with a lead.
I like hearing from a coach. It's weird. My thoughts on this have evolved over the years. Like, for example, the analogy in football, your job as a college football coach, to put it plainly and simply, is to win football games and to not really worry all that much about the shepherding of your first-year guy to his third year and the hopes of grooming him to become an elite, running back. Like, if I need to give a running back 18 carries and that's not what's best for him 4 years from now in the NFL because they'll have more tread worn from the tire, I don't care. That's tough luck. I'm paid millions of dollars. Nowadays, I really don't care because these people are paid to come play college. Go win a game. And if winning a game means I got to give Mark Fletcher at Miami the ball 22 times like they do per game, then that's what you got to do. I mean, that's the deal. Now, the counter to that a lot of times is, well, good luck sustaining elite recruiting at the running back position when you wear a guy out with 25 carries a game and the reputation precedes you the following year and the year after that when you're recruiting young kids and they've got options to go to a place where they can win and not have to carry it 25 times a game. I've never worried about that. But I think in the other sports, in baseball and basketball, it's kind of imperative that a coach have a very good understanding of what a guy projects to be and how to get him there and how to groom him. Pitchers, for example, they want to go somewhere, even if the coach is a headache and is a problem. Florida has recruited great pitchers, dominant pitchers, really good pitching. And O'Sullivan may be one of the worst human beings to ever walk the planet. He's a terrible human being. He's an awful guy. Objectively, he is a piece of garbage. And people commit. Well, they're not committing because they like him. In fact, I think they begrudgingly commit to him because they know, hey, look, Florida's got a history of churning out really good pitching right now. His staff has done that, and he's had an eye for it. But in college baseball, it's tough because you're talking about kids that a lot of times are out of position coming out of high school, out of position coming out of youth baseball because they were the best athlete on their team. So they played they put them as shortstop because they were a great athlete, but that's not what they project to be, or they pitched because they were the only guy that could throw it over the plate, but they're really not a specialist in that way. They need to be doing this, and this to further their chances of going to the pros. I think the best way to recruit in those sports is to be able to show that you have an understanding of what they are right now and what they project to be and how to foster that, develop that, and get them there. I think that's how you recruit baseball. I think that's how you can recruit basketball. I don't think it's as true in football to me anyhow. And so I like that Link is constantly thinking about, well, how do they fit here now with an eye towards how do I get them to be what they need to be to play at the next level?
Yeah, that's got to be a delicate balancing act. But he says, that he at the end of the day, the bottom line for him is to win. And so maybe we're working on something when we're doing infield practice on a Monday, and maybe we'll get you in there in the 6th inning on a Tuesday game where you need to be. But if it's Saturday and we have a 1-run game and you're helping me the most at right field, even though you profile as a corner infielder, your ass is going out in right field. Screw you. Because I need to win this ball game now. It'll be fascinating to watch. I think there are questions every year, and Link was right to fall back on. Well, we lost a lot of power year over year. We were having this conversation, and we did a pretty good job of replacing the power. He feels that way about the defense. I don't know that we've been this unsettled since Link's first year about how they're going to look out on the diamond, how they're going to position them out on the diamond. And that year he was working with a crop of players that they didn't fit his philosophy.
Yeah.
But this season he's got players that obviously he recruited. Obviously he likes their athletic profile, but it just feels there's an unsettled feeling there about your everyday. Miles Bailey's your everyday first baseman.
Yes, he is.
Outside of that, do we have an everyday anywhere else on the diamond? I don't know that we do. Carnes obviously is going to catch a lot, but for defensive purposes, I don't know. Is he going to DH a little bit this season? Is he your everyday catcher? We'll see. We'll see where everybody profiles.
Yeah, I think you've got an outfield that you can count on to be in the outfield.
Sure, you can, but it's like chase your everyday center fielder, chase your everyday right or left fielder. I don't know. I mean, he was even talking about a couple of guys who profile as corner guys. Was it Brody? I think he's more of a true corner outfielder.
Yeah, DeLon Lear is definitely is probably your right fielder. Yeah,
but I mean, last year you had guys that were entrenched up the middle in the corners.
Yeah.
You knew where Gage was going to be. You knew where Max was going to be. Lodis, Farrow, Miles. I mean, they were all. That's Cal. I mean, they were all where they were. This year, not so much.
Kind of fun to watch it develop. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio. Hour number 2 forthcoming. Stay with. Got some thoughts, by the way, on the Olympics. Believe it or not, and just big picture stuff on the Olympics that I have forgotten that I like. not sports, but things I like about the event. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV on a Balls McWednesday. Thanks for tuning to it. Appreciate it. Haven't gotten around to the Charlie Woods thing just yet. Mentioned it at the outset, but didn't get back to it. I have a bunch of thoughts on that. I'll tell you about them momentarily. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. You're you, and we appreciate you listening. If you're listening on 93.3, you're supporting local. It's Tallahassee's only locally owned and operated radio station. I could talk. Tell you I can. Just when I speed up, I don't talk as well. Also, Warchant TV and warchant.com. Busy day, I would think, for Warchant. Like the casual golf fan had to have jumped on board to see the headlines. Our own Matt Lasser writing the story about, what was the line? A cub finds its home or something like that, I think I remember reading.
Yeah, I think he did the thing where, like at the end of the Breakfast Club, where he punched himself in the arm with pride before leaving the detention room, and he's like, "Yeah, I nailed that one." Yeah, it was a big moment because Charlie's account was brand new. He had under 100 followers, and so obviously it's real because nobody would go to great lengths with Florida State logos to execute that graphic. That would be a deep fake for no reason, but you still had to run it down and make sure that Charlie Woods actually did this thing, which he did. Very cool.
So let me give you some backdrop on that. Obviously, you guys, maybe if you're new to the show, you don't know this, so I'll give you a little bit of this. I did a show on SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio with Trey Jones, the head golf coach at Florida State, for 7 years. Really enjoyed doing it. College golf in particular, unfortunately, is a bit of a niche. And when people stopped buying cars at the rate that they were buying cars, SiriusXM decided, I don't know if we need 9 live shows dedicated to college golf anymore. So anything past like 9 a.m. got the axe. That was the end of it. So we weren't doing that show anymore. But in those years that I did the show, and we did a lot of things with the PGA Tour Network. We did college golf, but we had the really good fortune. I interviewed professional caddies and professional golfers, and we had Brooks Koepka on and Phil Mickelson on it before Phil became a turncoat, all that stuff. So it was cool. But I got to know Trey a little bit. And one of the things that I really enjoyed learning about his competitive spirit and his work ethic and his way of building that program was, and you know this, Tom, because you've been around him enough too, Trey's a tough competitor, man. And I really think that went a long way in them being able to get Charlie Woods. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Trey doesn't make apologies for how hard he's going to push his players. And frankly, I don't think he would mind me saying this. He can be downright mean. And I don't mean mean like for the sake of being mean. There's a different kind of mean. There's this ridiculous notion of masculinity that some people engage in, that you try to be cruel to people because you know how tough them mentally and physically. And then there's the motivational, mean for a reason, as in you need to hear some things you're not prepared to hear.
Yeah. Well, yes. And also it's pure blunt honesty at times where that what was said is often used in books when I was growing up, a cutting remark, like that's going to hit you deep, but it's true. And so you just have to sit with it. Trey's got that about him. Trey has that about him. And he is a ruthless competitor on game day, but with the preparation, the assessment, he's got no time to approach you and perhaps delicately arrive to a point. It's just the point. You're either good or you're not. I remember one day they were playing in Southwood. That was their home course years ago. It's probably close to 10 years ago now. And he was furious about Freddie's retreat, the 16th hole, very drivable for these kids especially. And the way that they managed it, the course management, he could not believe, after having that place as a home course, that on tournament day that they were managing their second shots in such a way that they were managing them. And he walked over to me because it's got a natural amphitheater look there on 16. And the things he said, they weren't over the line, but you just gotta sense into how much of a competitor he is.
I think at certain levels of elite sport, that has to be the norm. A lot of people don't realize this. This is a sidebar. Leonard Hamilton was that way. And when I got invited into watching basketball practice with Leonard, as he began to trust me over the years, and he would assess players, sometimes he would come over and just we'd be talking, and he would allow me to pick his brain and ask him questions about players. We had a former McDonald's All-American that never lived up to his billing. It was rare that we got them. Anyhow, we got one, and he wasn't very good. And it's unfortunate. Some people will deduce exactly who that was. But I remember being at practice and saying, because I was trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, there was so much hype around this kid, and it was so rare we were able to get a kid of that caliber. Like, why isn't he any good? Like, how is he so good in high school and on the AAU circuit, not now? And so we're talking, and what he said to me about that player in that moment, rather coldly and casually, I'll never forget, and I will not repeat. But he said it, and I went, oh. And then it occurred to me, everybody up here is good. Everybody was good. Everybody was like preternaturally good. That's how they got a ride to an ACC school on full scholarship. That's how you become a player of that ilk, of that caliber, of that magnitude, is that you had to have been not just like a good player. Like I tell people I was a pretty good player for when I played. I wasn't like the guys that get full rides to play at FSU or Michigan or something like that. It's a different level. And I presume that the coaches who recruit at that level know that ain't it. You're going to have to be here for what we're seeking to get out of you, what we need in order to win and win big. And we all want to win championships. Not like I want to win a tournament. I want to win championships, the whole kit and caboodle. I want to raise the banner. I want to hold the trophy. I don't have time for your feelings. This is the deal. Right now, by the standard we are competing to and for, you can't ship for blank. You're useless to me late in matches when I need you to get up and down. You're just not good enough. And this is how that's going to have to be. I'm going to tell you that, and you're either going to work on it or I'm going to find somebody else who will.
Yeah, well, that's in this spot, that particular day, if you don't know the hole, it's reachable in two for you and me. Even if we had a good drive,
I've reached it in two before. Yeah,
I have as well. For them, they're hitting short irons in there because they're just, unbelievable players. And you don't want to miss short. It's the one place you can't miss. And he walks up to me, and goes, "You know this hole?" I was like, "Oh boy," because I said, "How you doing, coach?" You know this hole. Oh boy, here we go. Where's the one place you can't miss? Well, yeah, short. You need to be long. Right. You would think.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah.
You can, and his fingerprints are on the professionals that you see, not from a swing mechanic standpoint.
No.
For a lot of years coming out of Florida State in baseball, you kind of knew the stance. Buster Posey brought kind of a Florida State-ish stance to the major leagues, where the way they stood, where the bat rests on the shoulder, there was kind of a look and feel to the way mechanically you would swing the bat coming out of Florida State. Trey isn't coaching that at all, or hardly at all, about the mechanics of the swing. It's all about the mentality you have, and he's got his fingerprints on Florida State players in the pros, probably none greater than Brooks, who was hot-headed, extremely temperamental. The reason Brooks is stoic on the Pro Tour, it's not solely due to Trey Jones, but Trey's got a lot to do with Brooks' mental makeup and how he is more within, he stays within himself rather than being like a lot of the hotheads you see out on the tour. He had a little Tyrrell Hatton in his game, and you don't see that at all in the professional version of him. That's where Trey really goes to work, is the competitive spirit and the mentality, which is critical in golf. And I can understand, like you said, where that would resonate with Tiger Woods, because that's all Tiger does, is grind and grind away.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to that part of the recruitment of Charlie Woods and what I think won the day. To your point, Brooks credits Trey with that, so it's not an opinion. That is Brooks Koepka's voice saying those words. He has said many times that there was an incident on the golf course, and I love this about Trey, and I love this about FSU coaches when they do it. You take pride in that logo. You take pride in that university. It's on your chest. You're wearing that. And in the case of Brooks Koepka, famously, he was involved in a tournament, and he had it's on his bag. Seminole head is on his bag. It's on all their bags. And he hit a poor shot, walked over, and proceeded to hit the Seminole head, the logo, with his club hard. And Trey said, "Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I'll pull you off the course. We'll go ahead and concede the match. You will never do that again. I better never see it again. We don't desecrate. We do not do it. You better get a hold of yourself." That's it. We don't do it. And that was, and like he was stewing and he was mad and he had to walk away because he was afraid of what he'd say to Trey. Trey was like, nope, not going to happen. Not while I'm here. It'll never happen. That's just not, and that was the end of it. And that started him down a path of, oh, wait, there's a whole nother layer to all this and comportment matters. So I understand that during the recruitment process, there was an opportunity, obviously, for Trey to talk to Tiger and Elin and talk about Charlie. And you can imagine this is a very complicated recruitment. Everybody wants Charlie Woods. His dad is Tiger Woods. For that reason, and that reason alone, a lot of people want Charlie Woods, because even if Charlie never measures up to anything close to what Tiger Woods is, and let's face it, statistically, he's already not cutting the mustard when it comes to Tiger. Tiger had won multiple amateur championships. Charlie has not. That said, also, in fairness to Charlie, nobody in the history of golf besides Jack has ever lived up to Tiger Woods' accomplishments. So there's no shame if he doesn't become that. But even if he's not an inkling of that, even if he's just an average golfer by way of comparison to other college golfers, if that's all he ever becomes, right? Teams would still want Charlie Woods. You can only imagine the infusion of name recognition and PR your program gets. And if you wanted a taste of that, see yesterday's news that went national. So on the Golf Channel multiple times, got done watching an interview with Trey Jones on the Golf Channel. It led the ESPN ticker for a time. Later, much later in the day, well after the news had come out, it was still the third biggest story on their front page. This is, if you think back to Texas Tech last year, they spent $1 million on a pitcher from Stanford to bring her over. She carried them, unfortunately for us, all the way to the national championship round out in Oklahoma City. They lost narrowly. But if you looked at front office sports and all the other places that gauge what somebody's worth, NIL-wise and otherwise, to a program, she was worth every bit of that $1 million. Texas Tech has never won anything in anything ever. And there they were competing for a national championship because they went out and got one player. And then by the season's end, we all knew Texas Tech was good at softball. They're currently number one because she's still there. And we knew about that program and that logo and that emblem, and think about all the other college-aged kids that now know about Texas Tech. Florida State will get that kind of PR. Anybody would with Charlie Woods coming here. We're certainly a bigger brand than Texas Tech, but Charlie Woods coming to Florida State means that people, curiously and otherwise, will be locked into Florida State golf in a way they've never been, in spite of the fact that Florida State's had a Brooks Koepka, had a Daniel Berger, and on and on and on, and all the other pros that Trey has produced. This will be the biggest name in Florida State golf, arguably in history. That seems like blasphemy since I'm just kind of cruising over a 5-time major champion. But Charlie Woods is the son of the biggest name in the history of the sport and one of the biggest names in the history of all sports. It's Tiger Woods. So everybody would want him. What's going to differentiate you? What is going to differentiate you? And there's two levels to this that I really appreciate. One of them is an appreciation for Charlie Woods, who I've never met and who I've seldom seen play, save for when he's paired with Tiger, and then the glimpses we've seen of highlights when they were winning a state championship in high school and he was on the team. I'll give that part first. The reason I admired Charlie's decision to come to Florida State, to make that decision, to not go to Stanford where his dad went, or not go to Alabama where Justin Thomas was trying to convince him to go to, and many other places that he's visited or that people wanted. But think about what he chose to do by coming to Florida State in the year that he's coming to Florida State. That's right. He chose to play alongside and with a player who is much more accomplished than he is currently. And that's Miles Russell, the #1 amateur golfer in the world. And that kid, when committing to Florida State, certainly got recognized as a big get. He's not Charlie Woods because his name isn't Woods, but he's a better player than Charlie Woods, a lot better player than Charlie Woods. Charlie Woods is a good player. He's not a great elite high school player or amateur. He's just very good with potential to be whatever, maybe all-time great. We'll see what he channels and what he's able to get out of his game. But Miles is much further along. Do you know how many players, once Miles Russell committed to Florida State, decided, I'm not going to Florida State because I'm not going to have to ride the coattails of Miles Russell. I want to be featured. I want to be a star. I want to be the guy. By the way, in that recruiting class, the 2027, the group that'll be here in 2027, they have the number 1 amateur player in Europe who's also committed to this team. He is also a more accomplished player than Charlie Woods. So now Charlie Woods has said yes to Florida State, where 2 players, amateurs as they are better than he is, and it's not arguable. They are better and more accomplished than he is. And he said, I want to go to Florida State. I want to compete with and against those guys for spots on that team. That's a good sign, because a lot of people, other very good players, and I've heard this from Trey and others, once Miles committed and once the European kid committed, they went, well, I can go somewhere else and be showcased. I can go somewhere else where I'm guaranteed a spot as a 1 or a 2. Whereas at Florida State, man, you may not be good enough. You may not be good enough with what they have coming in. That's good news for him. The second part is Tiger Woods, as Tom pointed out, a notorious grinder, one of the hardest workers to ever play the game. Almost oddly, you could argue, based on the books I've read, to a fault, like he hurt himself. You know, he's had 47,000 surgeries. Some of that has to do with relentless training, overuse of muscles, overuse of your back and your knee and everything else that he's had go wrong. Some of it's dumb luck. Some of it's unfortunate. Some of it's a car accident. But some of it's just because when you spend 18 hours a day, every day, training round the clock in order to be great, well, sometimes you accomplish it if you're strong as he is mentally. Sometimes you wear yourself out and you become a 40-something who's really looking like a 65-year-old physically. So what does that mean? It means that he doesn't want to take the easy way out, and he doesn't want pampered players, and he doesn't want to be around it, and he doesn't want to coddle, and he doesn't want to be part of it in any way, shape, or form. And when Trey was asked, what are your practices like? It really helped that Trey Jones is a red ass at practice, to the point where Trey has said, well, most of my players don't like me much until after they leave, because of how relentless and ruthless I am in the assessment of their game, the meritocracy that I foster through competition every week to decide who's going to be part of that group whose scores count. So Tiger took to that. Tiger loved hearing his son, because he's Charlie Woods, is not going to be coddled. He's going to be told, you're not good enough. This isn't going to get it done. I've got players that have been here longer than you, that are further along than you are. I've got incoming players that are better than you are. What you're going to have to do is this, this, and this in no uncertain terms. And unless you do that, you won't play just because you're Tiger Woods' son. That's how they got Charlie Woods. That's how he said yes to Florida State and not Alabama and not Stanford. Nothing against those coaches. I don't know what their tact was in recruiting him, but I do know that Tiger's response to Trey's, well, I'm going to ride him. I'm going to be tough. It's tough love around here. We'll give him all the resources he needs. We'll give him all the opportunities. We'll give him everything that he would want. It's a fair shot, but it's also a very real assessment of where he is and whether or not he's ready to play, which I think is just absolutely huge.
Well, and it sets up for what's going to be, I think, in some good ways and probably some silly ways, a circus of a time here, because golf is already very niche in terms of its enthusiasm, but you just got a taste of it yesterday, that this crosses over into pop culture a little bit. And so it's not going to be that the Seminole Intercollegiate is going to be live on Golf Channel. It's not going to go to that level.
No.
But as different steps are taken in Charlie's career, in Miles' career, I mean, any of them, it's also something you got to communicate that to Miles Russell, that Charlie Woods is coming in, because anything you do, Charlie's somehow going to make a news story about you doing something good. Like, well, his teammate is also, in fact, Charlie Woods, son of Tiger Woods. You know why? Search engine optimization. Yeah, because they want to make sure that they can attach and get as many views on anything as possible. That could be tertiarily, if that's a word, related to your subject line. it's going to, like, the golfing world is going to pay attention to Florida State golf in a way that they never have before. You'll see our logo on things when guys are in majors, like when Daniel Berger and Brooks Koepka were competing for the same United States Open. You saw the team photo of them together and Trey standing with them. That is a post-fact bit of coverage. You might have an embedded reporter down here for a year or two with Charlie Woods, which is really cool. And it's so great for the value of Florida State University and the brand. It's also a nice way for Trey, who funded the course himself by going and getting the money for legacy, to also give back to the university and say, money well spent, everybody. Look at what I just did for us as an institution.
Yeah, and listen, I think you're right that the story surrounding Florida State golf is unfortunately going to be proxy to a reason to talk about Charlie Woods. I mean, that's unfortunately, right? That's going to be the reality. It's like, okay, so Florida State accomplished this. That's the proxy. Can we lead with Charlie? Nah, Charlie didn't play. We kind of can't lead with Charlie on this one, says the editor. Yeah, but we need to, and we need to. Yeah, but Florida State won the ACC because of these other guys. Yeah, find a way. Can we put a picture of Charlie up as we tell the story of Florida State winning the ACC? Because that's what that's going to be.
He could be the fourth counting score, and it's Charlie Woods, Florida State win 2027 ACC.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly the way that the machine works, and it needs to from an optimization standpoint. So, yeah, be prepared for that, but that's okay. I think if I'm Trey, if I'm Florida State, I say,
you live with it. It's why you did it. Yeah.
Say, so the hell what? This is so great for us.
Oh, no, it's absolutely great. But I think what you were hitting on earlier is important to note, because he had to tell Miles and anybody else, the kid in Europe, whatever, hey, by the way, you guys are accomplished superstars at your age, but you're going to be an afterthought because I'm going after Charlie Woods. It doesn't mean that I don't value you. Obviously, I recruited you every step of the way. I've been here. I've been at your events. I've sat down with your parents. I want you for the ability you possess, and I have really spent time fostering those relationships. But do understand, I'm bringing in a guy that's going to overshadow the two of you by a lot. By a lot.
And that's what's so interesting, specifically in the Miles Russell case. I'm sure that the European player is covered well in Europe, but Miles Russell is golf famous. Like, legit already, Miles Russell is golf community. Really,
his agent is Freddie Couples' agent.
Yes, and for what he's done at the age that he's accomplished it at, I wonder how long he'll be here. Maybe a year, maybe two. I don't know how those discussions went, because he could be earning his tour card before the age of 20. If he continues on this track. But Charlie Woods is world famous.
Yeah.
That's the thing that Tiger did not have to deal with. He rose to his dominance and anonymity. It was really uncomfortable. It was on Golf Week and Golf Channel when Tiger was recovering, and he was out there on the driving range with Charlie before they ever played in a father-son event. And you see Charlie's swing. You got dudes in the bushes taking video of Charlie. Making golf swings at 8 years old at a driving range. Like, it's paparazzi level stuff. It's crazy.
There's an added to this. We got to take a break. I'll put a ribbon on it next segment and we'll move forward. But I do want to bring this up too, because I think it's a lot of people have interest about how this went down. So I have some other facets to this story. I'll get to it in a moment. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. So following up on that discussion, and again, it's huge PR for Florida State, and get ready for some uncomfortable moments. I am curious to see how often Tiger shows up. Tiger's a really smart guy. I know that yesterday Tiger reached out to Trey and said, look, once this happens, once Charlie announces it, it's going to be a zoo, and there's going to be you're going to get a lot of requests, and there's going to be a lot of conversation about what's happening. But I just want you to know, and I think Trey's comfortable with me talking about this, that it's a big day for our family, and we're very, very proud of him, and we're very, very excited about him and what's going to happen. And we're very hopeful that, this all works out the way that we think it should. And he basically said that, I'm here to support you guys in any way possible. And listen, tell me we all didn't just have a good chuckle yesterday when the announcement came down, because you knew within seconds on Twitter and any other social media site that Florida State fans would gather around the fire and ask the question, Well, does Tiger care that his son's future alma mater be competitive in football? Like, we all knew that was coming. And it's funny, and it made me laugh. But, like, just as an aside, he's a real person, larger than life, who had a proud father moment yesterday about his son committing and having earned that. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. But I bring that up because I don't know how frequently Tiger is going to be there, walking the events, because Tiger understands that that's a distraction. I mean, that's a major distraction for his kid in a way. And that's the hard part. It comes with fame. I mean, look, so does a lot of money, but it's kind of the hard part. You just know anywhere you are is going to take away from that thing. It's going to draw attention and cameras to you. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, does he come to some big games? I'm sure. Do we play Stanford at home next year?
Next year, God only knows. Hopefully, we're in a different conference. I don't know for sure.
I can't remember the schedule. I've blocked it out.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about 26? No, we don't play them this year. No, not this upcoming fall. But I'm thinking. I thought you were asking about future opponents since Charlie's at 27.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of curious. I mean, I would think that he might show for something like that. But anyhow, it's just fascinating. There's something there to think about. But the other thing that is fascinating is, Charlie choosing to come here with the competition that he's going to face is again revealing of a mindset. But it's also there's a lot of stuff out there that has described the process and why they think he did it, and it's because there were some erroneous reports regarding Florida State golf that I do want to clarify. It should be noted that Miles Russell did not get $1 million to come play golf at Florida State. That did not happen. And it was put out there by the University of Florida because they lost out on the recruitment of Miles Russell. And as an excuse, they said, well, we weren't going to pay $1 million for Miles Russell. Yeah, nobody did. Nobody paid $1 million for Miles Russell. So just let me clarify that. That didn't happen. And secondly, nothing about Charlie Wood's recruitment has anything to do with NIL. Just use your brain for a second, everybody. For those that were thinking that, you do realize that $1 million wouldn't mean anything to the Woods family. Like, what's that going to get him? It reminds me of the Eddie Murphy bit about Johnny Carson and his wife, and Johnny's wife not working and then deciding to get a part-time job. Well, here's $2 million and 56. I'm going to add on to it for my week's work as a secretary. It's like, come on, man. I mean, you can't buy the Woods family. He's a billionaire. What were you going to offer Charlie Woods in the way of a financial package that I like that, Trey. I mean, that wasn't going to happen.
We're going to give you 3% of the private equity of the football program. At that point, I was like,
so
can we put Sunday Red above the ACC patch?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Trey. Now, I will say we have seen Trey Jones decked out in Sunday Red gear, so there may be some incentives there. But there is no, you could be like, well, what about 80 grand? Like what? There's no, you weren't going to buy the Woods family for Charlie's services.
I'm talking about Sunday Red on the football jersey.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Sunday Red for everybody. I'll have Sunday Red on tomorrow if need be. I just, it's hilarious.
But you have to give up the Sunday golds for baseball. You got to wear red now, like my red.
No, we're not.
I think about it.
All right, gang, we're wearing Sunday Reds from here on out.
What could you do to endow all of our programs, Tiger? Because I know you could do a lot.
Oh, yeah. What would we need to do for you to do that?
Right. Yeah.
If we all must don Sunday Reds, including the afternoon host on a daily basis, so be it.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Florida State Tigers.
We're all, woo! Unabashedly.
the mascot is just somebody dressed in a red and a black hat, and he just fist pumps. It's not even the actual tiger.
It would actually be funny if that were the case.
Just a Tiger Woods. You should run around like at the 50-yard line before the game. You run up, you raise the punter, and you fist bump.
And everybody goes berserk. It's actually hilarious. Yeah. But anyhow, I read that a couple times yesterday where people were like, well, man, Florida State, why are they so invested in golf? They go out and spend $1 million on Miles Russell. No, they didn't. And then they lured Charlie Woods. What must they have offered? Nothing. They offered him a scholarship. That's what they offered him. They don't need money. There's none of that. So that's kind of to get rid of those misnomers and get that out there. I would, Charlie's going to have opportunities because he's Charlie Woods. And if he plays well, then there will be endorsements, I assume, to be had in NIL. But that truly will be kind of the merit, perhaps, part of that. That we're lacking in NIL currently. Like if he's good and that name and that face, you could see a scenario by which he's paid a lot of money in the way that we envision certain quarterbacks or, star basketball players or baseball players eventually getting, as opposed to pay for play. I mean, that could happen. Yeah. I think it could happen. What's interesting is that what we're seeing on college campuses, because of what's happened with football, is that the programs that are having to fend for themselves, that are not the benefactors of the rev share money or precious little of it, they've got to become their best ambassadors. They've got to become their best recruiters. They've got to become their best PR agents. They've got to become fundraisers. And where if you had a head start on that because you recognized where you were on the totem pole early on and you sought that money out and you fostered those groups that we've talked about before, the coaches clubs. And, there are passionate softball fans that contribute money to Lonnie's program because of her success and the woman that she is and the coach that she is. And that's true for the soccer team too. And really any of these programs that are going to be successful now more than ever, I mean, they're all kind of separate and they all have to fend for themselves and they've all got to be very good at it. And Trey got a head start on that a long time ago with the Seminole Masters and the people that he had contributing to the Coaches Club and all the fundraising he did for the course and all of those things. So, there's an allure there. And I think that a lot of the other programs would do well to try to figure out how to foster that for themselves and become enticing above and beyond whatever the money might be, because you're going to have to find a way. You're going to have, because that's just where we're at. And Florida State's really in that pickle right now because they can't afford to give the rev share money or really any of their money to any other program besides football, so long as they continue to suck.
Yes, it's the hidden tax in the suck tax is the one within. It's the one within your own athletic department, not just what you have to pay for player acquisition, coach acquisition, retention, high school players. It's also what you can't spend on your current programs that are kicking ass. They feel the tax as much as anybody else feels the tax. What'll be fun, though, is that this makes Florida State interesting, not just to the pop culture world, what's Charlie Woods up to, but I really enjoyed having the number 1 and number 2 player on Florida State's campus on the women's side of golf.
It was awesome
last year. It was awesome. Wish they cashed it in with the title because, we don't do that around here enough with the great talent that we have. That's part of our history as an athletics department. Thankfully, soccer it bucks that trend, but man, they should have cashed in last year. But it was great to be able to watch that with consistency and see these players touch all those events around the world. Charlie is going to be playing in some high-profile events while he's at Florida State. He's going to be wearing our garb. That's really cool.
Oh, it's very, very cool. It's really cool just to see the post last night. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Tom, I don't know if you saw it. First of all, I've got to make sure I apologize. Who was it in our chat the other day when I was talking about cross-country skiing and all that stuff? Somebody came in and said, hold on there, partner. We're good at the sport, and you should watch it. And we were like, man, come on. I'm not saying I'm disrespecting the athletes. I think it's really hard to do anything that's endurance-based, but I'm not going to watch somebody. And that turned us into the conversation about the Ironman and all the other stuff. We're like, look, man, it's impressive. I just don't want to watch you do it.
Yeah, I think that was Jeffrey, I think.
All right, you spelled his name wrong. Yes, it was Jeffrey. You're right.
That's correct.
So, Jeffrey, I'm wrong, man, and I got to tell you why I'm wrong. Have you gotten a load of this J.H. Klæbo character? Did you see that guy from Norway?
I did not, no.
Tommy, I need you later today. You'll find it. It's all over the Olympic coverage. This sumbitch yesterday made a believer out of me, and I will watch him do this sport forevermore, however many more he's got left. First of all, he's won like 15 gold medals. It's ridiculous in world champ. He's a freak in the cross-country world of skiing, right? I tuned in to this guy from Norway on skis, obviously in the snow, freezing cold, gunning it down the home stretch, up a steep embankment, a huge hill, right? So this is the hard part of it. You're going up an effing hill, just all out, like a superhuman, like a machine, like these robots we see people making now that kind of scare you because they have human movement and they're impervious to pain and exhaustion. This guy is that thing. It was the sprint and skiathlon gold or whatever it was. That's what he won this week. He was skiing uphill at a sub 6-minute mile. He did a sub 6-minute mile on skis up a hill. And when the camera turned to him, and he was just looking evil. He looked like Terminator, the being that was coming after Schwarzenegger and what's her face. Remember, like he would run like and he would turn like he would go from liquid metal into just standing upright. And all of a sudden, be back to human figures and all that.
That would be the T-1000.
He looked like a T-1000. It was insane. Watching it, you almost tear up. It's so incredible what people can push themselves to do and the thresholds that they can pass through in that pushing, in that endeavor to be as great as they possibly can in anything. First of all, this part of the Olympics I do love. I have great admiration for anybody that's willing to dedicate themselves to something that is incredibly difficult, to push the human limits, the capacity to do something that requires tireless effort day in and day out to be the best in the world and then go compete at that level and put it all on the line. I have great admiration for that, for anybody that does it, because the discipline that it takes and the ability to turn off parts of your brain, it's just incredible. I especially feel that way about endurance sports, probably because I'm not good at them, probably because I always hated them. I hated when we would run. So I ran sprints in high school in track. I ran the 200 and the 400. I brought that up before. I only bring that up because I would sit in awe at the long distance runners. I would see what they were doing, and I'd say, well, my event sucks. I mean, I challenge anybody to run as fast as you possibly can with every fiber of your being one time around a track. Just do it all the way around. You cannot slow down in any way. That's the 400. It sucks. You're about to puke every time you finish. Every time you're about to puke. And I hated that. But I always could steel myself long enough to say, it takes less than a minute. You can do anything for less than a minute. You can. Just do it. Just shut up and do it and run as fast as you possibly can. And when it's over, if you have to puke, you have to puke. But I couldn't do that if I had, another hour to keep running. Like people who run as fast as you possibly can for miles at a time, that's a different level. That's something I can't fathom. Watching this J.H. Klæbo, I hope I'm saying his name right, from Norway, go look up the footage. It's the dumbest thing you'll ever see. Just, and he doesn't even look. he doesn't even look like it's affecting him in the way that it affected me watching him. Like, we joke about this. What's his face? That dude that's always climbing buildings and stuff and is the best climber in the world. And they do specials on him. I watch him do those things, and I know it takes incredible dexterity, incredible strength, incredible. I mean, you got to have the steely mind, all the things. When I watch him do those things, I'm always, my hands get wet. I get sweaty. It makes me nervous. I get sick. I'm like, oh, this is not, no, stop it. Stop doing that. You're dangling off of thousands of feet up. Watching that guy made me that same way. I had a physical reaction to that dude kicking ass yesterday down the stretch. I don't know what it was, but it was awe-inspiring. That's what it was. It was awe-inspiring. I don't know how anybody does that. It's insane.
I think it's a sign of age. I think as you get older, you appreciate endurance sports more. It's kind of like when you phase into the golf part of the demo. You get a little bit older, you're going to phase into the endurance sports demo.
Yeah, I guess.
Achievement and so forth.
Yeah, well, the achievement part of it. It's less about the sport. Like, I don't think I'm going to be watching that sport anytime soon.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you.
No. I won't be watching the sport anytime soon. I just admired him, that he is that kind of a freakazoid. Doing those things is just, when you watch it, you're going to almost be befuddled. You're going to go, so this dude just did a sub 6 minute mile pace uphill on skis. And when you're watching it, he's 29 years old. I looked him up right afterwards. I was like, I gotta look this guy up. He's 29 years old. He is clearly the best in the world at what he does. And then there's a story, for example, as a teenager, his mother had a rule. Upon finishing his cross-country race, her son was allowed to duck under the string barrier, ski into a quiet patch of woods, and allow his frustration to boil over. But when time was up, he had to regather himself, congratulate his friends, and continue as if nothing happened, because he used to take ass kickings. There was a ton of losing. So the talent wasn't on display until after he was 14 years old, because he was physically outmatched by all of his contemporaries. And then somewhere at the age of 15, he went from an average Joe to whooping ass, and he had decided, that's it. I'm going to dominate everybody. I'm going to change the way that you view me. He's won 107 World Cup wins. 107. 107.
I can relate to this. This is very much my story when it comes to Dr. Mario in the N64. When I was 8 years old, my sister destroyed me in Dr. Mario in such a way that I had rage tears coming out of my eyes because I could do nothing. And I'm now 30 years older than that. About the age of 12, I decided that I'm never going to lose again at Dr. Mario. And I have not lost a meaningful game to anybody other than like my niece or nephew who they're in their prime. They're 18, 19 years old video gaming. I haven't lost. So I've got 107 World Cups of Dr. Mario. I understand what it takes and how losses can fuel the desire to
the rage.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
All those losses that mounted.
I was challenged this past Thanksgiving, and guess what happened? The same thing that always happens.
What is Dr. Mario? You talking about Mario Kart?
No, Dr. Mario. It is essentially a game of battle Tetris, but it's got Mario stuff in it.
Oh, I see.
And so the colors, you get pills, and they have two colors, and you got to match the colors in sequence to get rid of the viruses in the vial. You remember that? Is that vaguely?
No, I think this came after I was done playing those kinds of games.
Well, it was on NES, and that's where I got tuned up. Was on the regular Nintendo.
Got tuned up like you were in the back alley taking ass kicking.
And there was taunting involved. I'm an 8-year-old kid. Man. I was like, man, After the tears dried on my cheeks, I decided, no, this isn't going to stand anymore.
See, everybody, we have our own warrior that's akin to going sub 6 minute miles up a hill in skis.
To the point where about 5 years ago, my nieces and nephews weren't old enough and to battle. And my dad goes, hey, remember what happened to you? I was, oh, good point, Dad.
Oh, yeah, you became the bully.
No, I got checked before I became the bully. Thankfully, my dad was, hey, Thomas. I'm like, oh, good call, Dad. I'm going to get better than the generation treated me before. I'm going to treat the next generation better. That's right.
So I'm not wrong to compare this guy to Alex Honnold or whatever his name is, the climber. This person is considered to be like the Alex Honnold or Shohei Ohtani of his sport. That's who he is. He's a freak. Go look him up, everybody. It's incredible. And not just 7 gold medals now or whatever the hell he's got. Imagine that, 107 world championships. He is enraged about what occurred in his youth in those hills of Norway. Jeff Cameron Show, final hour, forthcoming. Stay with. There it is. I've never played that game in my life. I'm no threat to beat you, Tommy. I've never played that game ever.
Not many are.